I am Abe, a chef cursed to never truly taste. Every dish, every masterpiece I create turns to ash or iron on my tongue. A cruel irony for someone whose life is flavor. I travel through these strange, wondrous universes, not for glory or fame, but for a single, elusive recipe. A recipe that promises to break this curse, to make me human again. My worn ladle is my only constant companion, a silent witness to my culinary quest for true taste. I yearn for the simple joy of a perfectly seasoned meal. The air here shimmers with the faint, metallic tang of ozone and polished brass, a scent I've come to associate with temporal mechanics. A low, rhythmic hum vibrates through the very ground, like 1,000 tiny gears working in perfect, synchronized harmony. My chef's sense immediately registers the precise, almost sterile atmosphere, akin to a meticulously organized prep kitchen. I can almost feel the invisible currents of time flowing past, a subtle breeze against my cheek. This place feels like a grand, cosmic clock, each tick a potential ingredient for my next creation. The air here shimmered with the scent of caramelized thyme, sweet and faintly metallic, like a perfectly reduced syrup. I stepped onto ground that felt like spun sugar, crunchy underfoot. Each crystal, a tiny forgotten moment. Above, trees bore fruit that pulsed with soft, internal light, their skins like polished amber. This wasn't just a forest. It was a chronal orchard, ripe with temporal possibilities. My worn ladle felt heavy, a familiar anchor in this bewildering landscape. I imagined simmering these thyme fruits, extracting their essence into a broth that could slow a fleeting second. The thought made my mind race with mischievous delight, despite the familiar ash taste coating my tongue. This universe, a grand pantry of temporal ingredients, called to my culinary spirit. A truly genius recipe was waiting to be discovered here. The air here hummed with a faint, crystalline chime. I followed a path into the chronal orchard. Beneath a gnarled tree, I found a peculiar depression. The water within it gleamed with viscous clarity. My chef's intuition registered the faint, metallic tang of aged brass. Iridescent mineral deposits lined the edges like microscopic gears. I knelt, my worn ladle reaching out to test the water. It felt denser than ordinary rain, almost syrupy. This was leap year rain, condensed by temporal magic. Then, my gaze caught a glint, a tiny, intricate spiral. It was a watch spring, glowing with internal light. Several nestled amongst the temporal sediment. This was the first tangible proof for the broth of stolen seconds, a quiet triumph. I carefully scooped a small amount of the shimmering liquid into my ladle. The metallic ash taste on my tongue felt almost ironic now. A low, rhythmic thrumming intensified, vibrating up through the gnarled roots of the chronal orchard. It felt like the very pulse of time, a living clockwork heart. My worn ladle, still glistening with the viscous leap year rain, felt heavy in my hand. I followed the sound, my chef's curiosity overriding any caution. The air grew thick with the scent of ozone and polished brass, almost metallic sweet. Around a bend, nestled amongst shimmering temporal moss, I saw it, a creature of pure light and intricate gears, no larger than my fist, pulsed softly. It was a chronal weaver, its delicate legs spinning threads of shimmering time. Tiny glowing watch springs detached from its ethereal form, falling like golden dust. Its movements were slow, deliberate, each shift shedding another perfect spiral. This was the source of the springs, a living, breathing, temporal mechanism. I knelt, extending my hand slowly, not wanting to startle the fragile being. With utmost care, I began to gather the fallen springs, 12 in total. They felt warm, humming faintly against my palm, each a tiny piece of stolen time. The metallic ash on my tongue felt almost like a distant memory as I focused on my task. I felt a strange reverence for this creature, a silent guardian of temporal mechanics. The air around me still thrummed with the faint echo of the chronal weaver's pulse. The 12 watch springs, nestled in my palm, felt like tiny, ticking hearts. I held them over the collected leap year rainwater, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly sheen. My chef's mind immediately began to dissect the problem: how to extract the stolen seconds without shattering their delicate temporal integrity. These weren't just metal, they were conduits of concentrated time. A harsh heat would surely unravel their magic, dissipating it into the ether like steam from an overboiled pot. Their structural weakness wasn't physical, but energetic. The temporal essence was bound by a fragile equilibrium. I needed a humane trap, a gentle coaxing. My worn ladle felt heavy, a familiar anchor in this temporal flux. I poured the rainwater into a small, heat-resistant bowl I always carried. Then, with utmost care, I lowered the springs into the cool, shimmering liquid. The goal was not to dissolve them, but to encourage the seconds to unfurl into the water. A slow, almost imperceptible warmth, like a gentle sunrise, would be key. I would stir with my ladle, creating a subtle vortex, a culinary eddy. This would draw the temporal energy from the springs, binding it to the water's unique properties. The broth would be a vessel, a silent captor of fleeting moments. I imagined the seconds like tiny golden threads weaving into the liquid. Polished brass and forgotten moments thickened the air as my worn ladle stirred the shimmering rainwater. Golden wisps, like captured sunlight, unfurled from the watch springs, dissolving into the liquid. This was delicate alchemy, weaving time itself into a broth. Once the springs lay inert, their essence released, I carefully retrieved them. The luminous pale gold broth pulsed with a quiet, temporal hum, a sacred essence of seconds. Bringing a spoonful to my lips, I closed my eyes, imagining its cool, smooth texture. I pictured crisp air, metallic starlight, eternity's whisper. Then, the familiar, bitter reality: ash and iron, the curse's cruel signature. My palate remained barren, yet the broth's magic was undeniable. I carefully decanted the precious liquid into a small, stoppered vial for borrowed time. The air shimmered with distortion from the vial in my hand, its pale gold liquid pulsing with temporal energy. I uncorked the broth of stolen seconds. A faint metallic rain scent escaped. Taking a small sip, the familiar ash and iron taste filled my mouth. Then, the grand clockwork city around me stretched and slowed. Gears whirred ponderously, marketplace figures drifted gracefully. A vendor's thrown apple hung suspended, a ruby orb. I watched, my worn ladle clutched. Observing this moment, my heart pounded with exhilarating power. As the world resumed its pace, the marketplace buzzed back to life. Cloaked temporal weavers, previously frozen, turned to me, their sharp eyes softened with awe. "You held time itself," one whispered. "Such restraint, young chef. Such wisdom is a rare spice." The grand clockwork city's hum was my metronome. My portable stove glowed with arcane heat in a market alcove. My worn ladle waited beside a crystal phial of rainwater. With surgical focus, I poured water into a miniature crucible. 12 watch springs, tiny spirals of time, lay on an obsidian slab. My whisper-thin blade descended, meticulously uncoiling each spring. Its helix transformed into a shimmering thread. The soft scrape of metal on obsidian was the only sound. My hands moved with practiced grace, a choreography of discipline. The shimmering threads joined the warming water, dissolving into golden wisps. Void salt, dark crystals catching the stove's glow, followed. I stirred with my ladle, a slow, deliberate swirl, integrating every element. The broth thickened, a pale liquid gold, humming with temporal energy. I observed its visual perfection, the subtle shimmer. My curse denied taste, but sharpened my other senses. The broth, shimmering gold, pulsed with light. I offered a small cup to a weary clockwork merchant. He hesitated, then took a cautious sip. His eyes widened, a gasp escaping, not pain, but profound wonder. The market blurred, its energy muted. His hand, reaching for a cog, moved impossibly slow. His gaze sharpened, seeing the world stretched. A smile touched his lips, understanding dawning. He whispered of forgotten melodies, gears turning in ancient rhythm. Time seemed to pause, allowing him to savor a moment. I watched his face, the transformation clear. My worn ladle felt heavy. Brass and rain aroma filled my senses. But on my tongue, only the familiar, bitter tang of iron. Sorrow pierced my chest. Quiet pride bloomed, knowing I had crafted this moment. This was my curse, my gift, my art. The rhythmic hum of the temporal larket still vibrated in my bones. My worn ladle felt lighter now, despite the familiar iron taste on my tongue. Each successful dish, untasted by me, chipped away at the curse's hold. The clockwork merchant's wonder was a flavor I could almost savor. This journey, though arduous, was revealing the true ingredients of my freedom. I was learning to cook with magic, with time, with existence itself. The curse was a cruel teacher, but a teacher nonetheless. A faint, sweet scent, like candied starlight, drifted on the temporal winds. It whispered of crystalline caverns and singing fungi. Perhaps the next universe held a recipe for pure light, or a spice that could awaken dormant senses. My heart quickened with new anticipation. The path ahead shimmered with unknown possibilities. I might not taste the cosmic symphony of flavors I conjure, but the look on their faces, that's a feast for my soul, a promise that one day, even my own tongue will dance to the tune of a perfectly seasoned, curse-breaking bite.